Hey, welcome back to another episode of the MindShare podcast. This is where we share strategies and insights to help you work smarter, build stronger relationships, and create the success that you deserve. This show is proudly sponsored by Kits Keep in Touch Systems, your ultimate marketing and lead generation CRM. Real Estate Magazine, Canada's trusted source for real estate news and insights. And REVEL Realty, redefining real estate with bold marketing, cutting edge training, and a culture that empowers success. Learn more about our sponsors and download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle at mindshare101.com. And while you're there, discover how our full range of services can help take your business to the next level. From one-to-one coaching for personalized growth to the MindShare Collective group coaching for community-driven success, momentum training to build unstoppable progress, and keynote speaking to inspire and motivate your team. We're here to help you elevate your game. And while you're at it, learn more about joining the revolution to experience the bold new way that real estate is being redefined. Today's episode is number 333, and we are diving into how realtors can use content to build authority so you can close more deals. With more than a decade of experience as a journalist for major news networks in Toronto and Ottawa, she has reported on elections, market trends, and the evolving real estate industry. Now, as editor of REM, she's focused on telling the stories that matter most to agents and brokers, delivering trusted insights and empowering professionals to stay informed, relevant, and competitive in a fast-changing marketplace. Today, we're diving into how to create the right content, how to maximize exposure when you get it, and how to stand out when everybody is saying the same thing. If you've been asking yourself how to build more visibility, more credibility, and ultimately more business, this episode is for you. Joining me on this episode of the MindShare podcast is special guest, editor of Real Estate Magazine, Jordana Springgay. Jordana, welcome to the MindShare podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, David. What an intro.
It's hey, listen, you've got you got your history behind you, you got a lot of expertise behind you, and we're looking forward to having you on the show. So I thank you very, very much for making the time for us today.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here.
It's awesome. So, you know, look, we always kind of go through like a whole list of different topics and questions, and God knows where the conversation ends up going. But I thought for anybody that maybe that doesn't know, you've had an incredible career in journalism. I'm curious though, and as our audience is very much made of the folks in the real estate industry, what drew you to real estate as that next chapter for you?
That's a great question. I mean, real estate, there's two sides of it, right? So you've got the markets, what's going on, and then you've got organized real estate, which is a whole new ball game. So anytime anybody asks me something like this, I always say, I'm learning something new every day, and that's absolutely true. So it's not linear. Keeping up with
That's
market
for
trends
sure.
is one thing, and then following what's happening on the politics side, um, is completely different. So the the way that the industry evolves and changes, and um, the fact that every day brings something new, I absolutely appreciate it, and I feel like I am constantly being challenged, mentally, emotionally. I'm always growing, always learning. So that was the big draw for me. Something new, something different, something exciting.
Totally. It's funny. I was going to say like what made you so excited about it, but like I get it. Um, the different challenges of the real estate industry, right? Like when you look at everything going on out there in the marketplace and the economy, what's happening right now, what just happened the other day. I mean, there's totally a can of worms out there to where things are going. Um, I would say that I am quite optimistic, and I say that regardless of again what took place the other day in terms of the federal election. I look at just the optimism around when things go up, they must come down. When things go down, they must go up. When all of that happens, nobody really knows, but the reality is it's what evolution has showed us over the past century and more. And real estate, decade over decade, continues to climb, rise, grow. So, the challenges and the topics and the things we discuss within the industry are certainly certainly evolving on a daily basis. You know, we're always looking at the same thing. I mean, I know we were talking off air before we got on the show of like looking at the content and looking at some of the articles that Rem puts out and looking at like some of the stuff that we're contributing and looking at like what works, what's resonating, what's not. And it's all timing, right? It's like anything else. It's all timing.
It's all about timing, and you're one of the many people I've spoke to who are optimistic about the, not just the long-term future, but the near future.
Yeah, look, I mean, again, off the heels of the other day, the near future, I gotta keep my mouth shut on that one, to where I think things are going. I mean, I've definitely been vocal about what I think and what I feel, but not to impose my will on others. Moreover, just to share what my voice is and where my opinion is at. And everybody's got one. Everybody's entitled to one. And I think that's the power of having good conversation and smart people, is that you can really, hammer out on topics and understand what makes sense and what doesn't. And just because I believe something makes sense doesn't mean somebody else has to believe something that makes sense. But it's certainly, there's some polarizing things going on out there, from, again, federal election to interest rates to the, economics, the tariffs, everything else. And that has certainly brought the industry and the market in of itself when it comes to real estate and, of course, other markets, not to a halt, but has slowed it down, and so how quickly can you get that picked back up? That's where, time will tell, right? But looking at REM for a second and just staying on that topic for a moment, because I got to tell you, and I don't know if you know this, I've got a T-shirt with like the REM logo on it. I actually showed it to Andrew, and he's like, "Where did you find that?" And I got that thing probably 20 some years ago. When REM was totally like this printed, like, almost newspaper type of magazine that was showing up in every single real estate office across the country. So I know for us, we've had this affinity with the company, with REM as it is, for a very long time. But that's the reality. Is like REM's been this trusted voice in Canadian real estate for years. In your eyes, I guess I would ask you, like, what makes REM, unique compared to other industry news sources? Because, of course, with the influx of social and online, there's tons of stuff out there. But to me, and I know to most of the people that have been in this industry quite some time, REM is the staple. REM is like the go-to. What's your take on that, or maybe vision on that, or thoughts, opinions? Like, what makes you guys different?
Well, first of all, I'd love to see this OG piece of REM merchandise, so you'll have to show me that sometime, David.
It's worth a lot of money. Eh? This is like one of those rookie cards.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a few reasons why REM is the voice of the industry, and realtors go to platform for industry news. First of all, like, we do our best to hold boards and associations accountable, so we'll get the story and we cover both sides. It's not one-sided, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're reporting on all of it. So it's not filtered. And speaking of unfiltered, you'll find the strong opinions as well. We are a platform for, whether it's someone from one of those boards or associations or another realtor who has specific concerns related to regulation changes. We're publishing opinion pieces quite regularly. Realtors who have something to say and they want to be heard, REM is a platform for that. So not only are we doing our journalistic duties and covering the news, but we're also amplifying the voices of the realtors and those in the industry who might not otherwise be heard.
So it's not one-sided.
It's not one-sided. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I think that's a huge point to hit home on right now for everybody in the industry, is to understand that. I mean, again, I think most of the industry knows REM as a staple, especially the folks that have been in it for some time. And I don't mean people that have been in it for 30, 40 years. Yes, they know it, but I mean even sort of our younger demographics in the industry. I think REM has built that notoriety within the industry, and at least that's my sentiment on it. To be a go-to source for legitimate news within the industry. But it's a breath of fresh air, Jordana, to know that it's not one-sided, and that there will be sometimes polarizing opinions that are shared. Um, but that when people do look at it, they know one thing, it's real. It's actually legitimate. It's what's going on, and I think that
And
that's huge.
I agree. In those polarizing opinions, there's the opportunity for somebody to respond, whether it's with a comment or an op-ed of their own. So we don't discriminate if it's well written and the points made are valid, and there's the data and information to support those points and those arguments. And 100% your voice um, will be heard on REM, and we would probably publish whatever it is that you've got concerns about.
It's huge. It's huge. It gives everybody in the industry a way to communicate, beyond, let's say, just social media. Now, as the editor, you see all the content that's coming through, and then you're that set of eyes. What's your vision for REM going forward? Are there any changes, or is there a new direction in any way for anything? Just as we sort of look ahead and think about what's coming. Is there anything that you're super excited about?
So many things I'm excited about. We just hired a another experienced journalist who's going to take on more industry stories. So it's covering more of the politics within the associations and the boards, what really matters to realtors. Again, it just amplifying their voices. We want to really focus on doing more video content. So whether it's a one-off podcast or regular podcast, we're committed to putting out more content digitally. So there'll be those videos to accompany the articles that you're reading every day. It's not just going to be a news article. It's going to be a video and a podcast to accompany that.
Oh, and will that be almost without the article attached sometimes? Like there's a section within the magazine that people can go to and see, like, just watch videos or podcasts?
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely. And I think it's just people consume news differently these days,
Yeah.
whether it's watching, listening, or reading. And we really want to cater to everyone and make it accessible
Yeah,
to
for sure.
everybody.
So how do you decide, what topics, what stories matter to the people in the industry? What do we pay attention to when it comes to, like, developing content? Because obviously, and again, we were saying this, like, before we got on air, is looking at and wondering what is relevant to right now. What's going to resonate right now? How do we decide on those things?
That's a great question. Our team is very tuned in to what's happening with the industry. So whether it's a contact within a board, um, you mentioned REM's credibility with realtors. We have realtors reaching out to us to let us know what's happening, whether it's upcoming changes that are going to be voted on at the TREB AGM, things that they don't like, and we do our best to get to the bottom of it, ask the associations and the boards questions, hold them accountable, which isn't always easy.
Yeah, that's for sure.
um, so a lot of it comes in organically, and then we're paying attention to things like Facebook, which is actually a big one. I can give you an example. A few weeks ago, Katie Steinfeld, who I think was a guest of yours
Yeah, she's
recently,
awesome.
she posted about the dangers of approaching an expired listing when it comes to privacy laws, and that the realtor could actually be breaking the law. So we reached out to her about that post and asked her if she was interested in um, submitting a guest column on it, because not only is she broker of record at her brokerage,
Hmm.
she's chair of RICO, so she is
Hmm.
an authority in the space. And anyway, she was on board, and 2 weeks later, we had the article up on REM that expanded on original points there in her Facebook post. So social media is a big one too.
Yeah, no, it totally is. And you know what? It's well, like you just said, with sort of the expansion into video and podcasts, the way people consume content. There's so many places to consume it, But I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing like when we're talking to somebody about a topic, and it doesn't even have to be real estate right now, but somebody brings something up like, they say like X, and you're like, oh, where'd you see that? Oh, I saw it online. You go, okay. I'm not saying that it's not real or it is real, but how many other sources did you back check to ensure that there was credibility to what was said? And now, like, did you fact check that, right? And are you continuing to share that out there? And it's yeah, I mean, like that whole social area, that whole thing of social media is so crazy, right? And then, like, when you get caught in the algorithms, what it starts to serve you up, and it's kind of like, oh, you like this, we're going to give you more of that, and people start to like really stand behind something. I
And that's
think
a great point. You've got to question everything that you read on
you
Facebook. I
you
hope that you
have to.
question everything that you read on Facebook, and that's where we come in. We see an idea and we run with it, and we find out, okay, is this actually happening? Is it happening? How they say it's happening, and what's the other side story? So it's
See, I
not
think
just
that to me is the best part about REM. And again, it's for me because I've been in the industry as long as I have, and I've known REM since day one. And even from before I stepped into it with my businesses, we were doing work for clients of ours in a corporate space, and we were also working with REM in that space. So we've had a long-standing relationship. And I bring that up to say that to me, it creates that credibility. You know who's behind the scenes, you know who's there, you know what's coming. Even now with obviously, who's there now versus who was there then, I still feel the same way about the people that are there. Of just understanding and being, knowing that there's credibility to what's coming. And I think that that is huge, especially at least for our industry. Are we going to tackle every topic for every industry? No, that's not what we're here for.
right.
In terms of REM, right? But it does create that go-to source of information for the people here. So if I'm a realtor and I'm trying to build my brand, which everybody is constantly, and they're running their own businesses, what kind of content is there anything specific that I should be thinking about? You know, what kind of content should I be creating today? Is there something specific if I'm looking going, I want to build the brand, I want to get a voice out there? Kind of like you mentioned about Katie, like, is there anything specific that just comes to mind? Any maybe ideas or just even thought lines, maybe not specific topics, but like, hey, think this way?
I mean, absolutely, yeah. Like people connect personally, not just professionally when it comes to content, and your brand really needs to reflect your personal values and expertise. And you hear it all the time how important authenticity is online. That we live in a digital era, so just staying true to who you are and honing in on what your expertise is, because everybody in this industry, they've got a niche some way or the other. You see a lot of realtors posting about market data, which is to each their own. I think the market's flooded with that. What I like to see, as a putting my consumer and client hat on, I love to see the behind the scenes stuff. So how a deal gets done, um, behind the scenes tour, what goes into staging, things that we wouldn't normally be privy to when the realtors sort of open that back door and show us how they do what they do. I find that incredibly valuable. And whether that's from a social media standpoint or we're looking to develop content for REM, that's something different. I'd love to see more of that.
So like a lot more behind the scenes kind of stuff, like show me what actually happens.
Behind the scenes, yeah, process education, like simplifying the buying and selling processes, explain to clients what to expect clearly and transparently. Um, Content like process walkthroughs helps clients view you as a helpful guide rather than a salesperson. I think sometimes realtors get a bad rap for being too salesy.
Sometimes,
Sometimes.
but no, but you're bang on though. Like if I think because that's exactly what was going through my mind, right? Is when you're teaching people the process and you're showing them what actually goes into it. Now what you're doing is actually validating that you're not just exchanging one email to somebody else and then getting paid lots of money for it. And that's one of the big things that so many people have concerns about this stigma in the industry, or pardon me, the stigma outside of the industry about the people in the industry and how much they get paid for so little work. Yet we know inside it's not so little work. There's a lot of work there. And what you're saying is, hey, show us, tell us more, educate us, share with us, give us some insights.
Exactly. And especially now with realtor reputation on the line, you've got these commission lawsuits.
Yep.
You know, the realtor's bread and butter, it's now being talked about in the headlines. As you say, people are questioning their value. So showing, the outsiders what you do and how you're earning your commissions, because I know how hard realtors work and I know that they are earning those commissions, but not everybody sees that. So,
This is for sure.
give them a window into the process.
Well, and so there's the window into the process. And the other thing that you said about it was, educating people on. So not just, hey, check it out, here's what it is, but then the education around those processes and what people should know. And I've been saying this for some time now. I've been saying this for a long time now, but like using sort of the line, like communicate to educate, sharing with people, teaching people, making them understand what's going on, helping them understand what's going on, giving them some further insights and maybe an angle on something that they haven't seen before, or teaching them something that they don't know. But I also believe, as we talk about media and we talk about news and sharing voices and editorials, articles, opinions, there's got to be a spin on the narrative sometimes, right? And again, the appreciation for where REM's coming at it, that you guys do the research to go figure out what it is and is it legitimate or not. When we look at the mainstream media in a typical basis, there's going to be a lot of one-sided sort of ways of thinking and doing and what they're saying. And so let's just take something, for example, like the real estate market. Is the media saying it's a good market right now? Or are they saying it's a bad market right now? Quite frankly, I believe if you read most of the headlines are going to be of a negative tone rather than a positive tone, not an optimistic tone. And so people start to get that mindset, and therefore buyers slow down on their shopping. Sellers, maybe don't decide not to list at the moment. Or maybe sellers still think it's 2022 and they're going to get all that money for their house, which they're not. We need to communicate to educate. Here's what's actually going on. Have that conversation, open up that door, and let people talk.
That's exactly it. Communicate to educate. And that should be the backbone of your content creation. Again, trust is so important. And once you build that trust, the clients will come. I think, in my opinion, you position yourself as an industry expert, whether it's, with blog posts on your website or content generation on social media, or, you're recognized as an expert among your peers because your content's published in REN. Communicate to educate. Your name is out there, your voice is trusted, and that's what drives people to you, and that's what's going to attract clients to you, not because you're, trying to pitch them or sell to them with this content. I love it, David. Communicate to educate. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah, by all means. And I was going to say to you, like, and maybe we just answered this, but a lot of, as you say, writing blogs and putting out content, a lot of agents struggle to share their voice. There's fear of what if I'm wrong, fear of, what if somebody else has an opinion that's not the same as mine. There's fear of, the keyboard ninja coming out of nowhere and saying things that, is going to hurt your feelings. But what advice would you give to, any agent that's hesitant to like put themselves out there? Or maybe you just said it's about the trust factor.
It's about the trust factor, and you have to start somewhere. Don't aim for perfection with your first article or your first blog post or your
Love
first
that.
Instagram reel. Just get something out there, because you look at these content creators now that have, just real estate aside for a second, that have millions of followers, and you go back to their first Instagram post or their first TikTok, and I bet it looks completely different to what they're putting out now. So start somewhere and you'll just get better with time. When it comes to being wrong or right, again, if we're creating based on what's authentic to you, there is no right or wrong answer. I am a firm believer when it comes to personal posts. I try to keep religion and politics out of it. That's just me.
That was me up until like last week. I crossed one of the lines, but whatever.
To each their own.
Yeah.
To each their own. I don't engage. But again, that's sort of, I think, keeps you a little bit safer from the public backlash if you leave your personal opinions on things like that out of the conversation.
It's funny as you brought up, like, look at the folks that have millions of views and then go back to like their first content. It looks very different. This podcast on episode 333, 7 years later, and trust me, episode 1 looked very different. You know what I mean? Like all the videos that we put out on a regular basis, like go back to some of them. And actually it's funny. I'm as part of our momentum training series, which is like a progressive training program that we do for brokerages. You know, one of the topics that we talk to in one of the trainings is video. And I bring up this one video that I did that was like, I don't know, video number 4, number 5 that I did. Like we're talking like years ago, Jordana. And I just walked off the ride called Pirates of the Caribbean in Florida at Disney World. And I did this video like in the gift shop. And I started off by like arr, you know, like sort of cowling like a pirate, you know, and I spun it in a way of like, you know, when you're out there farming and chasing strangers, you're always like, you know, doing things to get different business, but there's different ways to get, anyways, whatever the topic was. It's funny that I put it out there. I look back on that video. I'm still freaking embarrassed by it. But it's still
You should
up
be
there.
proud. You should be proud, David. Look at how far you've come.
But this is the thing, right? Like it's still out there, and thank you for that. It's still out there. And I mean, you know, I've also played it on stages across North America to show people and be like, and I'll stand there on stage while this thing's playing and be like, oh my God, what am I doing? And the minute it stops, people start cheering and clapping and laughing. And I'm like, I can't believe I just played that for you. But I do it from a place of literally trying to bring people to a point where they go, oh, okay. He's still here. He's on the stage. Everybody's looking at him. Well, if he could do that, then I guess I could do my video. And it really is, you know, trying to, you know, create that empowerment for people of just do something and you will get better at it. But if you don't start, you'll never get there. And then you use that word perfection. And I believe that perfection is very subjective. I don't believe that perfection is something that really has a true definition. It might have for you, which is maybe different for me. So don't try to be perfect. And I love that you said that, right? Like, don't try to be perfect. Now, from your seat as a publisher, as we talk to this, then what would we say makes a piece of content or a story, you know, really stand out and feel credible in today's market? Because it's one thing to have a story, it's one thing to say something, it's another thing for credibility. And I mean, even sometimes when we talk about this stuff, it's like some people are like, "Oh, that's just high level, fluffy, you know, woo woo type of stuff." You know, they're trying to be all positive. The reality is, no, it's this type of stuff that works when you truly actually do the work. You know, most people don't do the work, but, you know, what would you say is like something that makes them again stand out and feel credible?
I mean, first of all, talk about what you know, and if you don't know it, then do the research. I think we're learning that AI is an incredible tool. And that's the thing, it should be a tool. It should not be the source of your content.
Yes.
It's very obvious when we get submissions at REM from people who have used, haven't done any of the work themselves. Like, it's a sensitive topic. I mean, if someone runs an article through AI for polishing, it's very different than if someone gets AI to just completely generate their idea. So just being authentic. If you don't know it, research data and information to back up your argument. That's going to give you credibility. I can't stress that enough. Just know what you're talking about and use the tools that are out there to support your argument.
Okay. And I like that. And I'm glad that you brought up the AI topic. I know there was a few years ago when it became a hot topic, there was a publication not REM. I just want to state that. But there was a publication that actually um, had some positive, words and support for certain contributors who had used AI to write their content. And I was personally blown away because the way I broke that down in my brain, and again, very subjective, but the way I broke that down was, so wait, you used a robot to write your content, slapped your name on it, submitted it, and people looked at you and said, hey, great job. To me, that doesn't make sense. Now, I was very specific with that particular outlet as well to just call it out, whether they liked it or not. It's kind of sometimes got to be done. But in the same breath, though, and this is not about that. It's we've also learned over the years that AI is a great co-pilot, but it should not be the source of the information. You should be the source of the information. Moreover, and I've had people ask me this stuff in trainings when we're talking about content creation, we're talking about how do I come up with something better to say? It's like, could I have it write it for me? Could I have it write the email for me? Could I have it communicate for me? People are trying to set up automation to do that. And I go, but hold on a second. We know real estate's a people business, and we know that you need to communicate more with people. The last thing you want to do, and this is for the livelihood of your business and the longevity of the business, is put something in between you that is not your voice, not your thoughts, not your opinion, maybe something that has more knowledge that you don't possess. Then you put yourself in a situation where I go, hey, Jordana, thanks for sending me that. I'm like, hey, can you tell me more about, ABC? And you're sitting there going, yeah. And I can tell right away you don't have enough substance to even talk to me about it. And the extension of that is the lack of credibility, the lack of trust, and the word trust you brought up, a few minutes ago there. But how important that trust is.
And I think you spoke about this recently in one of your columns, David. It's just again, it's a tool in your toolbox, and it's 2025, and AI is here, and it's a big part of our future. So we need to learn to work with it, but have it do those menial tasks, have it fill out forms for you, so you can focus on what matters, and that's the authentic, in my case, authentic content creation, or communicating with clients or potential clients. That's what you should be doing.
And exactly, the job here, a big part of it is to communicate. Most of it's to communicate, right? We're not buying and selling houses for people. We are helping people buy and sell houses. We're helping negotiate the deal. We're helping to market the property, and so we've got to be the one that leads the way, because if we're not, we fall into the same basket as everybody else. So again, I just action step for everybody tuned in right now, and it's important. And we are speaking with the editor of REM magazine about how realtors can use content to build authority, Jordana Springgay. And as we talk about this topic of AI, Jordana, just as an action step to everybody tuned in right now, it's important that as a takeaway, I would say, again, you have an idea, punch it into your chat GPT, punch it into whatever it is. Get it to help you expand the thought if you'd like to. Start to take a few points, but make sure that you craft the message in your voice. Make sure you craft in your opinion. Jordana, like you said, go and do your fact checking, go and back check, get some additional stats, include that, and make it you. And when you have a full understanding of that topic that you're speaking of, that you came up with, that you know about, and then you leverage something like a chat or any AI tool out there to help you expand on it, nothing wrong with that. There's your co-pilot. It's like bouncing it off of somebody else, a colleague across the desk or on the phone with somebody. You're bouncing ideas around. Bounce the ideas. Just be sure it's your voice and that you are the one that was really originating that content. That would be the way I would say, take this AI and leverage it. Now, as we talk about, what's that?
Very well said.
Well, thank you. Here, let me ask you this. I think a question, and this was something that as sort of preparing for today's interview with you, I think this is something that people may wonder about, or after listening to today's show with you, would want to know. But what is a simple way? And you've got this awesome history, like just in the sort of the world of like media. What is the simple way that a realtor, somebody in this industry, could start building stronger rapport, stronger relationships with local, media outlets, industry publications like REM, how do they do it? Is it like, would you say just simply reach out? I mean, if I said, I want to be like on like, one of the major news stations on the 11 o'clock news, like I want to be interviewed at that, like what do people do to create these connections?
So first of all, absolutely reach out. It doesn't hurt. If you've got a story idea or an angle that you think your local news should cover, whether it's, the traditional media or something like REM, send an email. Build yourself as an authority in the space. I know certain realtors have done it very well. In Toronto, if you look at someone like John Pasalis, who's a broker of record at Realosophy in Toronto, he is very much a thought leader in the space. He's posting constantly to LinkedIn and Twitter, and I'm sure all the other sites, but he takes the data, and not only does he take the market data, but he interprets it. And that's what's so valuable about the realtor's voice, is their interpretation of the data, because anybody can report on stats. But a realtor's perspective of what's happening on the ground in that moment makes them a very valuable voice and a very important part of the conversation, and in my opinion, necessary in telling that story. So don't be afraid, to post about what you're seeing happening in the market. And again, just if you've got the data and the stats to back it up, that's just going to make your argument so much stronger. Position yourself as an authority. I can tell you from experience that assignment desks at newsrooms are constantly trolling social media, looking for stories and story ideas. And if they see someone's interpretation of the latest stats from Greater Vancouver Realtors, they're like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't see that. Let's talk to this person and get their take on it. It just snowballs from there. Once you, have a few successful appearances on a podcast or on a newscast, you're going to be a source for journalists. They're going to reach out to you first, and you'll have a direct line to journalists, so you can keep pitching them your stories.
Okay, so love that, and thank you. And I will go out and say, so it ain't that hard. Figure out who you want to talk to, and then go figure out how to get a hold of them. I mean, email, social media, phone call, go see them. That's the way to reach the person, or reach the people, or reach the place. Moreover, as well, again, back to what we said a few minutes ago, produce your content, put it out there, have a voice, share a view, share an opinion, make a statement, teach people something. Like the more you're out there, the more, and this is one of our favorite words, but consistency. The more consistent you are with your messaging, the more consistent you are with putting the content out there, the more you will have that opportunity to do that. So now we fast forward to the next step, would say, let's say we do get seen, we do get published, we do get interviewed or featured. What do we do next? What would you suggest people do next to maximize exposure?
Share it wide and far. Take snippets for reels for Instagram and TikTok. Write your own blog post, and repurpose it for your website. Send the podcast or the TV spot to your email list. Like that piece of content is so valuable, but you can maximize efficiency by creating all these different pieces of content and sharing it with your network. And your networks, whether you've got prospects or leads on your mailing list, they see that and they're like, okay, this person means serious business. I saw them on traditional media, CTV News last night. I'm gonna go to this person who's on my house.
So share it out there. Okay. And logical for sure. In saying that, then, and that'll bring us back to consistency, having a content strategy, right? And to everybody again tuned in, with, make sure you're taking notes as always, make sure you write down these action steps, but it is come up with a content strategy.
Content strategy. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I just like consistency is so key. Personally, I can tell you a REM story. We I've been working with a realtor broker in Toronto for almost 2 years now, Daniel Foch, and that's how our relationship started because he was constantly putting out the data, the stats, the facts. We went to him to, I can't even remember what the story was, but we needed his voice for an article. And from there, it just snowballed. And now he's a columnist for REM. He writes twice a week. He put REM columnist on his resume. I don't know if he has, but he's set himself apart just by that, constant generation of content. And he shares it everywhere: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram,
Email list, social media.
email
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, for sure.
all
So,
these.
so when people are doing this, then what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see them making when they're trying to build that visibility? Like, is it just lack of like sharing? Is it lack of connecting? Like, if you look and say this, okay, to me, I believe that putting it out into your email list is I don't want to say something that everybody knows. I just say a no-brainer. Like if you know it, it's like obviously do it. Putting it on your social platforms, sharing it to your feed, sharing it to your stories, putting it on multiple platforms. Again, to me, I get it and it makes complete logical sense. That said, some folks that may not be as aware or in tune with it all, they're still trying. But do you see anybody? Are there certain mistakes that they're making? Is it maybe just the fact that they're not sharing it? Like, well, I don't know, just some insights on that.
I think that's what it is. They're not sharing it for
Yeah,
whatever reason.
yeah,
Maybe they don't like how their point came across. They don't like how they look. They don't like how they sounded. They thought they made a mistake. And it comes back to this idea of perfectionism that's different for you and it's different for me. The things that you don't necessarily like, other people aren't going to notice. Just flood your networks with the content and be proud. Like if you got an article published in REM or um, your voice was used in a news story or quoted in something, like there's no reason not to share it, even if you don't like the dress that you were wearing. Um, Nobody else is going to notice. Share it and just be consistent. Maybe have a waterfall approach. So you start small and then you um, progressively share it on all your platforms. I'm not seeing the same thing on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, getting the same email all at the same time. Waterfall approach.
right, right. Okay, I like that. I like that little tip there. So it's like don't put it all in one place in one day, but sort of disperse it over time to the different platforms, and maybe you get a little bit longer shelf life out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. I like that. I like that. And it's funny you say, you don't like the dress you're wearing, or the hair, or the way what you said. I think that one of the biggest fears that everybody has is really what they sound like, what they look like. Outside of what are people's opinions about what I say. And I also would go to say, and this is to all, our regular listeners, and especially if anybody here is brand new, and thank you to everybody, is very much that of the more you do it, the more comfortable you get at it, and the more those fears begin to subside. That concern about what other people say, or that concern about the way your hair was. Like, trust me, I did a keynote one day, and I remember after the fact seeing some of the photos, and there was like this piece of hair standing up at the back of my head that like I didn't see when it was this way, but somebody had the picture of the screen that was behind me and I could see it. And after it, I turned to my team. I'm like, yo, why didn't anybody tell me about that? They're like, Dave, what are you talking about? We didn't even notice. I'm like, look at that piece of hair. They're like, Dave, we still don't see it. Right. And like,
Yeah.
you notice these things about yourself that not everybody notices. You hear it, you see it. Most people don't. There's so much content out there. We're moving
Mhm.
so quickly, right? Like some of those concerns are just um, self-imposed, limiting, whatever you want to call that, right? So it's anyhow being in control. But as we look ahead, Jordan, and we say, okay, we're geez, we're well into Q2 here in 2025. Are there any specific, and I know we've talked to the types of content and given some ideas, but is there anything specific in 25 that people should be looking ahead to in terms of what they're going to say or how they're going to say it?
I mean, at this point, I would say that content isn't optional. It's your online storefront, it's your digital handshake, it's how you're establishing yourself as a trusted voice in your community,
Great
among your
point.
peers. Um, just prioritize service and education over direct selling. Again, and we see it a lot in the submissions we get at REM. The author is focused way too much on the promotional aspect of it and getting a lead or a sale, and less on the content and the education. And first of all, those articles don't make it through. We don't share those. So not only have you wasted my time, you wasted your
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
The real ROI is when audiences feel informed, confident, and valued. You don't want to waste their time either. If someone's going to give you their eyeballs for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, however long it takes to read or watch a piece of content, leave them with takeaways, actionable takeaways, something that's valuable, something that will leave them feeling like they didn't waste their time and they can't wait to consume this next, whatever comes next from this realtor who created the article that they found super helpful. And then again, just like regular, consistent value delivery through content is more impactful than sporadic, complex efforts. Start small, do a little bit here and there. It's like my mantra: start small. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a very good thing, because then you keep building and building, and it gets easier and easier and easier, as opposed to trying to climb a mountain on your first day. I can't tell you how many people get overwhelmed and give up. Start
There,
small.
there's the issue is trying to do too much too fast and then getting to that point where you go, I can't do this anymore. It's too much.
Yeah.
Right now, think about, and we both know it, think about how many people will take that approach of like trying to do too much too fast and then just enough, they're done. And then think about the people that have these beliefs of like, I've got to do it all, so I'm just not going to do anything because it's too much, and so they don't do. And so that simple little thing you just said of like, start small. What a massive, massive nugget right there. And I'm serious, like, to everybody, it's exactly that. Because if you go, well, I'm not going to make this amount and I'm going to keep it very simple. Think about how many people aren't going to do it. In fact, I've got this line I always use, like most people, which is like most, that quotes of most, like most people won't do it. Most people, will do this. Most people will do that. Like, don't be most people, and as long as you're not most people, you're probably are going to put yourself in a good position to win. And I know that sounds so simple, but it's that sheeple mentality of society that will fall. Well, yeah, how many people are scared like to hear their voice or see themselves on camera? The ones that aren't step up and stand out, right? So where do you see those opportunities now as we progress through like the next 12 to 24 months, agents differentiating themselves? Is it still, that major content strategy? And this is asking you from your professional role as well as your involvement in the real estate industry.
I mean, I think the way that the market is in most places right now, it's quiet. So now is a really good time to work on your content strategy and figure out, what niche you want to focus on, what your goals are. Go from there. Start small, as we say. I think once the federal election is behind us now, once we have a better idea of how tariffs are going to impact our economy, I think that there are so many people. I know so many people who are just kind of sitting, waiting, and watching to see what happens, because Canadians don't want to make big financial decisions right now, and that's not news to anybody. But I think that's going to change. I don't think there'll be a delayed spring market based on what I've heard from realtors and what I've read, but I think there might be a fall rush. So figure out your content strategy, start putting things out there, and get ready, because the clients will come, and maybe not when you expect, but if you position yourself as that trusted voice, I think you'll be their first call.
What a nugget right there too. No, nailed it. Like, people don't want to make the big financial decisions right now. There's like just so much going on. So much has happened. So much we were waiting on. Uh, People are in a holding pattern at the moment in a big way, and there's a lot of unknowns coming down the pipe as well. Love the optimism around the fall market. Absolutely love it. I think that's such a positive dose of energy for the industry. So well done there. Um, much the same. It's something we've been talking to a lot lately is about, filling the pipeline, right? And making sure that we're doing those things to fill that pipeline on a regular basis, because what we do today is what actually sets us up for the business that we're going to get in 30, 60, 90, 120 days. It's not the business we're getting today, right? The business we have today is a result of what we did 90, 120 days ago. And so, again, as everybody's sitting around trying to figure out how to make more noise in this market and create a hotter market for themselves, because being what it is, there's some people making some good money right now, and there's some people doing good deals. Many people are not, though. It's not that same industry or market, part of me, it was a few years ago. And in saying that now, it's like, well, what do I do? Do I go out and spend more money and try to chase running more ads? It's an option. I would, say check your marketing budget and have a strategic conversation around all of that before you do it. Much the same, creating content. Yes, you could say time and money are one and the same, but it doesn't take money. It takes time, right? It takes setting up and having a content schedule and a work back schedule and a strategy, and, really making the time to write something and then put it out there, record something and put it out there. And that's where you get a voice. That's where you get recognition. And when people are ready, you're the one that continues to stand out. You're the one that's building the mind share. And that mind share always equals market share. So loved what you said there. What would you say to anybody who says, I can't?
Oh, that's a great question. Say not with that attitude.
Yeah, I like that, Mom. I like that.
Of course you can. That's silly. Everybody can. Just most people won't, David, as you say. And like I said it so many times over the past hour, but just like start small, start somewhere. You absolutely can. You can. You just got to silence that voice that tells you can, because that's your ego talking. And go for it. What's the worst thing that could happen? Nobody's laughing at you. If people watch it, great. If people don't watch it, that's fine too. Just keep going, keep putting it out there, and eventually, you'll get that yes. You'll get those views. You'll get a spot in REM, and then, potential clients Google your name and they see, oh, David Greenspan contributes a regular column to Real Estate Magazine. He's got to be an authority in the space. He must know what he's talking about.
I like that. So, and great answer. Positive, motivating, simple. And I think that's been a big part of the message today. Now, Jordana, as you go through your day and you're doing all the stuff that you do, professionally, personally, all the conversations, being a mom and a mom to be for the second time, how do you know once you lay your head down at night that it's been a successful day for you?
It's been a successful day if I drop my son off at school and I pick him up and I closed all the rings on my Apple Watch.
Okay, cool.
Is that simple enough for you?
That is, super simple. Understand that, again, money, and this is a reinforcement to, again, all my regular audience as well, is that we ask that question at the end of every show. Money is never the answer. right? Which is just, it's insights for people, because success is typically tied to money, especially for hunters who are salespeople in the real estate industry or many other industries. But money is not the key answer that most people have, or that anybody ever has, actually. And
Mhm.
so it's nice to hear what people see as success, and dropping your son off and picking him up at school. Super awesome. Very, very awesome. Jordana, any final words of wisdom that you want to share with everybody before we take off today? Anything just relevant to them and what they can be doing? Any sort of wrap up maybe from today's topics? Anything about REM Magazine? Just anything at all? Just some sort of a closing statement here before we take off.
Absolutely. I'd say just try. Start with one piece of content a week, pick one platform, and show up constantly. Um, Remind yourself, educate. Don't pitch, don't sell, educate. And I promise you the content that's going to come organically is probably going to bring you what you're looking for. It might take time, but consistency is so important. Let the content do the heavy lifting. You just be you. And thank you, David, for having me. Thank you so much to REM readers. David's been a very loyal supporter and a friend to him for a long time, as he mentioned off the top. And we're very, very big supporters of David and what he does, and we appreciate his contributions. And if anybody ever would like to get in touch with me at REM, please send me an email, Jordana at realestatemagazine.ca, and I'd be happy to give you feedback on your content journey. If you've got an idea for an article or just an idea for a story, something we should cover, please reach out. We do our best to provide feedback that's not only constructive, but detailed. So if we don't accept your first submission, we'll help you get there.
I will double down on that and say to everybody that first, it's an absolute pleasure working with REM Magazine. We thank you very, very much for the support that you guys provide to MindShare 101, to myself, allowing us to share a voice, have a voice out there, being part of our strategy. We have amazing faith and confidence in what REM Magazine is doing, has done, and is going to do. To me, you guys are the go-to industry source for the most legitimate, real news there is in the entire industry, across the entire country. And so I encourage everybody that if you haven't, heard of REM, maybe you're new to the industry, realestatemagazine.ca, make sure you save it as a favorite on your homepage. Follow them on social media, tune into the articles. You're going to have a ton of amazing education, commentary, insights into what's going on in our Canadian real estate industry. And of course, if you're a listener from anywhere else in the world, United States and beyond, no reason not to know what's going on up here in Canada and in the real estate world. So again, REM Magazine is the go-to source. Jordana, I can't thank you enough for your support. I can't thank you enough for all the time you took with us today and the insights you shared. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. And again, a big thank you.
Thanks for having me, David. It was a pleasure.
We will talk to you shortly.
Bye-bye.
That is a wrap on another episode of the MindShare podcast. A huge thank you to Jordana Springgay for breaking down exactly how real estate professionals can use content, collaboration, and branding to grow your business in today's market. Of course, if you got value from today's conversation, if it helped you rethink your brand, your story, or the way you show up, here's what I want you to do next. Please hit subscribe to the MindShare podcast. This episode will actually, if you're listening to the audio of this, it's already syndicated to the all the big platforms out there. If you are watching the live feed, I thank you for making the time today, and I do ask you, please, by all means, subscribe to the show. Make sure that you're listening regularly. Leave us a 5-star review. It means so much to us. Helps us really grow the show, and we make that super simple. You can go to ratethispodcast.com/MindShare101 from any browser, and that'll take you to whether it's iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere else. But yeah, please take a moment to do so. It means a lot to us. And of course, please, if you have any colleagues that you feel can benefit from this today, in fact, even for yourself, share this out to some of your colleagues, put it out on your social media feeds, share it as a piece of content, a value add from you to your audience. there's a real simple content strategy for you, as we discussed today. Of course, don't forget to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle at mindshare101.com so you can build more mindshare to get more market share, as well as learn more about joining the revolution. And be sure to connect with me on both Facebook and TikTok at MindShare101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. For any inquiries, just get in touch with us today. Of course, just before we take off, I have to say a big thank you to Kits Keep in Touch Systems, REM Real Estate Magazine, and REVEL Realty for their continued support as a sponsor of the show. Until next time, keep building that mind share because you will earn that market share. This has been another episode of the MindShare podcast. Thank you for tuning in.